My name is Sheila Lowe, and I'm the current president of the nonprofit American Handwriting Analysis Foundation, or AHAF for short. AHAF was chartered in 1967 as a nonprofit 501c6 business organization. Many of us work in the areas of document examination, testifying in cases of handwriting authentication, and in the behavioral field. We cover three major areas of handwriting: how it was written, which has to do with the physical, observable features of handwriting. That's the measurable aspects, the writing conditions, pen and paper, the writing surface. Then there's who wrote it, which is to do with handwriting authentication, the physical, observable features applied to who wrote it. And then those physical, observable features applied also to what affected the handwriting. And there are many things that can affect handwriting, such as age, physical or mental health, medications, and personality. Over the years, the organization has produced workshops and conferences, published a newsletter, chartered chapters, and eventually went international. I became a member in 1977, and I later served on the board as newsletter editor for 8 years. In 2011, I was elected president of both the national organization and also the Southern California chapter. It was a year into my term of office that what I'll call the cursive question came to my attention. One of our Canadian members, Etta Manley, had attended the Handwriting in the 21st Century Summit in Washington, D.C., where she learned that the Common Core had been adopted by nearly every state and that it eliminated the requirement to teach cursive handwriting. This came as a great shock to all of us, and we came to realize that even though Common Core didn't forbid teaching cursive, many schools had dropped it from their curriculum. I give a lot of presentation to lots of different groups, and at every one where I asked, parents, grandparents, and teachers all bemoaned the fact that their children can no longer write, can't even sign their own name. So the first thing we did at the Southern California chapter of AHAF was to create a Campaign for Cursive committee, and we started a blog where we posted articles and comments. But that was just the beginning. In July 2012, we started a letter writing campaign. We wrote several templates and asked everyone we knew to write 5 letters, and for each of them to ask 5 more people to write 5 letters, explaining the importance of keeping cursive in the curriculum. I was hoping for about 50,000 letters to arrive on the desks of legislators, school board members, and teachers. I have no idea how many actually participated, but the grassroots movement had begun. Our committee, led by Gaina Scott, has worked tirelessly. Gaina has been a dynamo at making connections with companies and organizations who are interested in supporting our efforts. 2 years ago, she and I were invited to New Orleans to speak at the Writing Instrument Manufacturers Association conference, where we found a great deal of interest in the cursive issue. Companies like Amsterdam, Farnese Pens, Bic, Crayola, and Dixon Ticonderoga partnered with us in various initiatives. We also started the annual Cursive is Cool contest with numerous organizations contributing prizes. Well, fast forward to a few months ago, in the middle of 2016, after reading dozens of articles, maybe more than dozens, and people's comments pro and con, we realized it was time to produce a white paper that would, in an unbiased way, address the many questions that people were asking. So we explored the pros and cons. We answered the objections of the naysayers, gave arguments in favor of cursive. We looked at the use of keyboards for writing and what the research said about it. We discussed the efforts of cursive writing, the effects of cursive writing on learning disabilities, and we shared what the researchers say There's a list in this paper of 82 research articles on the subject. This paper, the white paper, The Truth About Cursive Handwriting, Why It Matters in a Digital Age, is available as a free download on the AHAF website. And here's the address you'll see on the screen. Now, let's look at what the states are doing, the state of the states. In preparing for this presentation, I did a quick Google search of the state of cursive in each state. Here's what I found. After adopting the Common Core, 6 states kept cursive in the curriculum. 11 states have since passed legislation to bring it back. 4 states have legislation pending. New Hampshire passed legislation that encourages but does not mandate it. Georgia and Mississippi require some cursive. In North Dakota and Wisconsin, it's the teacher's choice. In Washington, legislation was introduced but did not get a committee vote. Indiana actually removed cursive despite numerous efforts by Senator Jean Lessing to get legislation passed. And in Arizona, Governor Ducey vetoed legislation to bring it back. He said he wanted the Board of Education to handle it, not legislation. So it's now becoming part of state standards in Arizona, which tells us that even if passing a bill doesn't work, there may be other avenues that present themselves. There are 8 states that definitely do not require it, and there are still 14 states that I didn't find, so it's going to take further research to find out their status. Handwriting activates the centers of the brain that most strongly influence language, speech, and surprisingly, perhaps, vision. Researchers who observed the increased activation of the visual centers during handwriting hypothesized that writers were actually visualizing the information they wrote, expanding and using imagination. It's been found that writing about worries about a test before beginning a test had a significant effect on decreasing test anxiety in students who were highly anxious. So even writing about testing worries boosts exam performance in the classroom. But the question remains whether cursive is really superior to printing. What researchers hypothesize so far is that cursive incorporates a cognitive element in terms of connections and sequencing that stop and start printing, which is called ball and stick printing, does not. Spelling and composition develop more quickly for people learning to read, think critically, and spell if they use cursive at least some of the time. Cursive writing helps develop the controls of the left brain. It calms the brain. AHAF's research chair, Dr. Jane Yank, wrote this: "The main point is that those who write, not only type, can read. Hand motions using shapes, not fingers pressing on a keyboard, are linked to brain development in the language centers of the brain in a way that typing is not. Cursive is faster. It trains the brain by integrating sensation, movement control, and thinking. And kids love learning it because it's like grown-up writing." We're not averse to technology at AHAF. We use it all the time. I'm doing that right now. But research shows that there are some negatives when using exclusively technology. The constant bombardment of video games, TV, and other electronic media that the young people are exposed to these days keeps the right brain turned on, which results in a shorter attention span, lower self-control, and a need for instant gratification. There's also an impact on emotional expression. Even Microsoft and Samsung agree that finger strokes in cursive are easier for computer recognition of words than the stop-and-go lifts of printed writing. And that means cursive writing will be more important in creating tablet messages, notes, and numerical computations. So cursive is going to stay, but the medium may change. Microsoft indicates that we will eventually eliminate the keyboard and the mouse to use finger writing and gestures. Looking at some statistics, you may be surprised to know that 85% of Americans under the age of 23 prefer to print because they never learned to write cursive. And 25% of all elementary and special education teachers do not use cursive themselves because they never learned it. There's a huge increase in learning disabilities. And often, when kids are sent to occupational therapists, they're taught cursive writing, which helps improve some of the disabilities. So wouldn't it be better to start with cursive and see if it reduces the number of children who are experiencing learning disabilities? Now let's look at some of the anti-cursive questions that our white paper addresses. They say, voice recognition will eliminate the need for reading and writing. Well, do we want an illiterate society that relies solely on machines? With software being developed to read handwriting, it's important for students to write legibly. Another myth is children are more illiterate than ever. The fact is, the National Center for Education Statistics indicates that 65% of all fourth graders in the U.S. read at or below grade level, and the deficit increases in later grades. Another myth is that handwriting is obsolete. Well, quills and fountain pens were replaced. Not in all cases. And what if technology becomes inaccessible due to power failure or natural disasters, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes? When there's no electricity, you have to be able to communicate in writing. Then students need to compose, edit, and think on computers. Well, the fact is, students who practice these skills in longhand think in complex, more complex, higher-leveled, nuanced ways, and they're able to recall and identify concepts in greater depth than those who rely solely on keyboarding. Language learning is mastered more quickly with handwriting. Dr. William Clem, that's K-L-E-M-M, a neuroscientist and senior professor at Texas A&M, notes, quote, hand-eye coordination is a major developmental feature of handwriting, unquote. As learning progresses, the brain creates new circuitry, which becomes hardwired and can be used for other eye-hand coordination tasks. Cursive is faster and easier than printing. Written note-taking produces higher comprehension. Students can read teachers' handwritten comments on their assignments. And early development of fine motor skills predicts later achievement in reading, writing, and math. And neural development increases, which expands into language, memory, word recognition, and emotion with handwriting. This was the third year AHAF sponsored the Cursive is Cool Writing Contest, and I'd like to share with you comments from a few of the winners. We start with Liam, who said, I had messy print, then I discovered cursive. I finally felt dignity in what was being written on my papers. So this fourth grade boy knew how important it was to feel dignity, and cursive gave him that. A fifth grade girl, Olivia, I don't have her actual picture, said, sometimes I pretend it's my own secret language, and whenever I write in cursive, my mind and pencil are filled with magic. I think that's wonderful. Ava, who is a second grader in Washington, says cursive is cool because it's like art. You get to be free with your pen. And something about Ava, when she was in the second grade, she didn't want to wait until she was in the third grade to learn cursive. So her mother got her book from a company that we like at AHAF called Cursive Logic, so she could learn on her own. And she learned well enough to win as the second grade girl. And Then we have Nicholas, who is in the 6th grade in Colorado, says, I love signing my name in cursive because it is very fun and satisfying. Connecting the letters makes it unique and lets the letters pop out on the paper like waves on the ocean. That's pretty creative. And finally, Riley, who's the 1st grade girl from Kentucky, says, the letters are curvy and remind me of bubbles. Some of the shapes look like smiles. And we find that children really do love to write in cursive. They feel more grown up, and there are many benefits. Well, now the next thing for AHAF to prepare for is National Handwriting Day. And to accommodate our many partners around the world, International Handwriting Week. National Handwriting Day is on January 23rd. It was started by the Writing Instrument Manufacturers Association back in the early 80s. They chose January 23rd because it's John Hancock's birthday. Remember John Hancock? The legend goes that Hancock wrote his signature so big and bold on the Declaration of Independence that King George could read it without his spectacles. Sadly, children of today who are not taught cursive cannot read the Declaration of Independence or other source documents or even letters from grandma. Throughout history, people who could write have been viewed as more intelligent, they get better jobs, and they overall have better lives. We believe it's very important to support our children by giving them this vital skill that's going to serve them throughout their lives. All children deserve all the benefits that cursive writing has given to those adults who today want to deny them this ability. And one point I'd like to make is that this is true of the public schools, but the private schools, children whose parents can afford to send them to private schools, and also homeschoolers, are learning cursive. So it's the public school children who are missing out. The American Handwriting Analysis Foundation is the go-to organization for anything you need to know about handwriting. We welcome your participation in the campaign for cursive. There are many opportunities for those who want to volunteer, and we invite you to check out our website at cursiveiscool.com or campaignforcursive.com, and also our Facebook page. I'll end here with the excellent advice of one of this year's Cursive is Cool contest winners, New Yorker and 4th grader Jason Clayhammer, who says, keep calm and cursive on. Thanks for watching.